These 7 shadow tests will break you unless you're truly a dark chosen one. Let me ask you something that might shake the ground beneath you. What if the universe never wanted you to be happy? What if every ounce of pain, confusion, and chaos in your life was never meant to be healed, but to transform you into something unrecognizable to your former self? You see, most people come to spirituality looking for light. They want peace, clarity, and ascension. But the truth, the real truth, is that the light is only revealed to those who have walked through the abyss with eyes wide open. Not everyone is meant to survive that journey. That's why we call them the shadow tests. There are 7 of them. And each test is not just a phase. It's a gatekeeper, a spiritual predator designed to destroy your illusions, kill your attachments, and rip you away from everything you think you are. This is not a metaphor. This is the raw spiritual underworld, and only the dark chosen ones ever make it through. Not because they're special, but because they no longer care about being saved.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
I remember the first time I tasted the mirror of fire. That's the name I've given to the first test. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with thunder or signs. It arrives in silence, in the form of a question that haunts your soul. What if I'm not who I think I am? The mirror of fire doesn't show you truth, it shows you contradictions. It reflects back the parts of you that you've carefully hidden, the parts you hate, the memories you've buried so deep that they rot in the basement of your psyche. And the fire. That's the rage, the shame, the self-hate that ignites when you realize you've been lying to yourself your entire life. You may think this is dramatic, but have you ever looked in a mirror and truly hated what you saw? Not the body, not the face, but the soul that wears it. That's the beginning. The mirror of fire strips away the mask of the good person. It burns through your spiritual ego, your need to be seen as enlightened, as kind, as loving. It shows you the truth, that beneath all your affirmations and manifestations, there is a monster. And that monster is you. People run from this test. They escape into distractions, Netflix, sex, social media, even toxic positivity. But if you're truly called, you can't run. The fire follows you. It appears in your dreams, in your relationships, in your addictions. It forces you to confront the question, can you love the parts of yourself that you were taught to exile? Because until you do, you're not on a spiritual path. You're just playing an identity game. I want you to sit with that. Who are you when no one is watching? What thoughts crawl through your mind when the lights are off and the world has gone quiet? Most people think they are their curated personality, funny, smart, compassionate. But those are just masks. The real you is hidden beneath layers of trauma, fear, and rage. The first test breaks you by exposing those layers and daring you to look without blinking. When I went through this, I lost everything. My reputation, my relationships, my sense of self. I became a ghost in my own life. But that pain, that humiliation, it was sacred. Because for the first time I wasn't pretending. I wasn't performing. I was dying, and that death was holy. If you're going through this now, don't try to escape it. Let it burn you. Let the fire consume your false self. Because what survives that fire is the seed of the dark chosen one. And that seed cannot sprout until the soil of your soul has been scorched clean. Here's a practical truth. Start journaling your darkest thoughts. I'm not talking about shadow work light. I mean, write down the things you'd never admit to anyone, the things you're ashamed of, the things that disgust you. Then look at them, read them out loud, and don't flinch. Because if you can face your own inner filth without judgment, you've already begun to pass the first test. But be warned, the mirror of fire doesn't leave quietly. Just when you think you've made peace with your darkness, it will show you a deeper layer. You'll notice it in your reactions, how you judge others, how you manipulate, how you pretend not to care when you actually crave validation. Every time you think you've healed, it will say, "You're not done yet." This is the initiation, not into light, but into truth. Now, let me ask you something deeper. If everything you love was taken from you, and you were left with only your shadow, could you still respect yourself? Or would you crumble, begging for the illusion to return? The dark chosen ones don't beg. They kneel only to the truth, no matter how painful. And that's what makes them different. They don't seek comfort. They seek revelation. They walk willingly into the fire, knowing it will destroy them and welcoming the destruction. If you're still listening, I know you're not like most. You're not here for spiritual entertainment. You're here because something ancient has awakened inside you, something primal, something sacred. And it's whispering to you now, you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to be forged in darkness. This isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming real. And realness costs everything. The first shadow test is brutal because it isn't external. It's not a demon or a ghost. It's you. And facing yourself, truly facing yourself, is the most terrifying thing a human being can do. That's why most people never do it. They settle for half-truths, for spiritual fluff, for illusion. But not you. You've already been chosen, not by some god in the clouds, but by your own soul. And now the fire has begun to rise. Let it. Because only through fire does the metal become a weapon, and only through shadow does the chosen one become unstoppable. The abyss that whispers back when darkness starts speaking your name. After the fire comes the silence, but not the peaceful kind. I'm talking about the second test, the abyss that whispers back. This isn't a metaphorical darkness. It's a living intelligence that waits in the spaces between your thoughts. It doesn't shout. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And when it does, it speaks in your voice. This test begins when the world around you seems to lose meaning. The people, the goals, even your spiritual practices, none of it holds the same weight. You wake up and feel like you're floating in a void. Some call it depression. But the dark chosen ones know better. This is not clinical. It's cosmic. The abyss is the moment when you realize you've burned the old self, but there's nothing yet to replace it. You're in limbo. You don't know who you are, what you want, or why you're even here. You scroll through your phone and everything feels hollow. You meditate and feel nothing. You pray, and it's like shouting into a black hole. That's silence. That's the abyss answering you. And it's not empty. It's listening. This test is not about fear. It's about surrender. Can you walk through the valley of the unknown without needing a map? Can you let go of your identity without rushing to create a new one? Most people can't. They panic. They grab at anything to avoid the discomfort, new relationships, new ideologies, new addictions. But the abyss punishes those who try to escape it. The more you run, the louder it whispers. And eventually, it starts to say things you've never dared to think. It asks questions like, what if everything you believe is a lie? What if your entire life has been a distraction from your true nature? What if you were never meant to be loved? But here's the paradox. The abyss isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to strip you bare. It wants to see if you're willing to exist without purpose, without validation, without comfort. It wants to show you what remains when all illusions are gone. And if you can survive that, then you begin to hear the real whisper. The one that speaks not from your mind, but from your soul. I remember when I was deep in this test, I'd wake up and feel like I was watching someone else live my life. I'd stare at the ceiling for hours, unable to move, unable to think. And in that stillness, something began to speak to me. Not in words, but in knowing. It told me that silence is not the absence of meaning. It's the birthplace of it. That the void is not empty, it's potential. It's the womb of creation. And slowly I began to realize something. The abyss is not your enemy. It is your origin. You came from it. You are it. And once you make peace with that, its whispers change. They no longer question your worth. They begin to remind you of your power. They say things like, "You are more than this body. You are not here to fit in. You are here to awaken something ancient. You are the darkness that teaches the light how to shine." So here's a practical challenge for you. Spend 1 hour in silence. No phone, no music, no distractions, just you and the void. And when the discomfort rises, don't run. Sit in it, breathe into it. Let it consume you. And listen, not with your ears, but with your inner awareness. What do you hear? What does the abyss whisper to you when you finally stop trying to control the narrative? The second shadow test breaks you by dissolving you. It removes the scaffolding of your identity until you feel like a ghost. But ghosts are not weak. They are untouchable. They move through dimensions. And that's what you're becoming. You're not losing yourself. You're shedding the self that was never truly yours. And in that shedding, something sacred is being born, not in light, not in form, but in silence. The temptation of power, when darkness offers you the throne. By the time you've walked through the fire and stared into the abyss, something inside you changes. You're no longer the same person. You've seen too much, felt too deeply, lost too many illusions. And it's at this moment, when you're stripped down to your raw, primal essence, that the third test appears. It doesn't come as suffering. It comes as seduction. This is the most dangerous test of all, because the temptation of power doesn't try to break you. It tries to crown you. You see, the universe doesn't just test your weakness, it also tests your strength. And this test is a mirror of your growth. The darkness sees you've survived the fire. It sees you've walked through silence without screaming. So now, it whispers a different question. What if you could control it all? This is the moment where the shadows stop resisting you and start worshipping you. Opportunities begin to appear: money, influence, recognition, spiritual gifts. People start to listen when you speak. You begin to notice your intuition sharpening, your magnetism increasing. You walk into a room and people feel your energy shift the atmosphere. And somewhere inside, you start to believe it's because you're chosen. And maybe you are. But the question is, chosen for what? This is where many fall. This is where the ego, once burned to ashes, tries to rise again stronger, darker, smarter. But this time it wears sacred robes. It speaks in enlightened tones. It calls itself a healer, a guide, a leader. It tells you that you deserve the throne, that you've suffered enough, that now it's your time to rule. And here's the catch: it's not wrong. You have earned something. You have walked through fire and darkness. But the power being offered to you now is not a gift. It's a trap. It's the shadow disguised as divinity. It wants to know, will you use your awakening to serve others, or to feed your own hunger? The real spiritual battlefield is not between good and evil. It's between service and self-glorification, between truth and control. And this test is subtle. It doesn't tempt you with obvious evil. It tempts you with influence, with people praising your insights, with the intoxicating feeling of being seen as a master, a guru, a chosen one. Let me ask you something that might sting. If no one ever knew how powerful you were, would you still walk the path? If your gifts were never recognized, if your voice was never heard, if your visions never went viral, would you still serve the truth? Or are you only here for the crown? This is where the dark chosen ones distinguish themselves, because they don't chase power. They don't even chase enlightenment. They chase alignment. They stay loyal to the calling, even when it means walking alone, even when it means their wisdom is never seen, even when the throne is within reach and they turn their back on it. Power is not evil, but it is seductive. And if you haven't mastered your shadow, It will use your gifts to build a prison of influence around you. You'll become a puppet of your own image, a prisoner of your own reputation. You'll say what people want to hear, not what needs to be said. You'll trade truth for applause. And slowly, your soul will start to rot. But if you pass this test, if you feel the pull of power and choose service instead, something miraculous happens. You don't lose your strength, you refine it. You become a vessel, not a ruler. A channel, not a gatekeeper. And in that surrender, real power flows through you, not the kind that controls others, but the kind that transforms them. So here's your practice. Next time you feel the desire to be seen, to be admired, to be praised, pause. Ask yourself, who am I serving right now, truth or ego? And be brutally honest. The shadow loves to disguise itself in noble intentions. It will say, I'm helping people. But deep down, you'll know if that's true. If you're posting that insight for impact or for likes. If you're sharing that wisdom to liberate others or to inflate yourself. This is not about guilt. It's about refinement. No one is pure. We all have ego. But the dark chosen ones are willing to confront it relentlessly. They don't let it drive the car. They sit with it, question it, tame it, and in doing so, they become something rare. They become incorruptible. The third test is not passed by denial, but by discernment. You must know the taste of power, feel the weight of it in your hands, and still choose humility. Still choose the path of service. Still choose to walk away from the throne if it means staying true to the mission. Now let me leave you with this. If the shadows offered you everything, fame, wealth, influence, love, but in exchange you had to abandon your integrity, would you take the deal? And don't answer quickly. Sit with it. Feel it. Because the answer to that question determines everything. The final gate where death, destiny, and divinity collide. When you've walked through fire, stared into the abyss, and turned down the throne of false power, there's only one place left to go, the final gate. This is not a metaphorical door. This is the moment where everything you thought you were, everything you hope to become, must die. It is the most sacred and terrifying test of all, not because it asks for more pain, but because it asks for everything. Not suffering, not sacrifice, surrender. You arrive at this gate empty, not numb empty. No identity left to protect, no ambition left to chase. No need to prove anything to anyone. You've seen the truth behind the illusions. You've rejected the easy path. And now, the universe leans in close and asks, are you ready to disappear? This is the test that separates the truly awakened from those still clinging to the story of awakening. It's not about what you've survived. It's about what you're willing to become. And here's the paradox. To become everything, you must be willing to become nothing. The final gate is a spiritual death, not a physical one, but a more profound kind. It's the death of the last illusion that you are separate, that you are a self at all. It's the moment you dissolve into the intelligence of existence and let go of the idea that any of this, your pain, your story, your path, belongs to you. And yet, it's here at the edge of annihilation that the most sacred truth is revealed. You were never alone. Every flame, every whisper, every temptation, every loss, it was all orchestrated to bring you here. Not to punish you, to prepare you. Because only when the self is gone can the soul fully take its place. But to cross this gate, you must answer one final question so deep, so raw, that it will shake the foundation of your being. Can you let go of the need to matter? Let that sink in, not just the egoic craving for recognition, but the deeper one, the desire to make an impact, to leave a legacy, to be remembered. The final gate burns that too. It asks, will you still walk the path if no one ever knows you existed? That is the ultimate surrender. And if you say yes, not with words, but with your being, if you step through that gate without clinging to meaning, identity, or outcome, You awaken as something unshakable, not enlightened in the way the world sells it, but fully integrated. You become a force, not a figure, a presence, not a persona. You become the storm and the stillness all at once. You don't need to speak truth, you are truth. This is what it means to be a dark chosen one, not someone who chases power, but someone who becomes a vessel for it. Not someone who escapes the shadow, but someone who absorbs it, transmutes it, and walks with it in sacred balance. You become the bridge between dimensions, the living paradox, the one who died before death and came back whole. And now we return to the beginning. These 7 tests were never meant to be won. They were meant to undo you, because only the undone can truly be reborn. So I ask you, one last time, are you willing to lose everything you thought you were to become everything you truly are? If the answer is yes, then you're already walking the path. And the path is watching. Welcome home.